Okay, another cycle that we find in an environment, we've talked about nutrients being recycled, we've talked about water being cycled. Another really important one is carbon. Now you'll develop an understanding of the importance of carbon kind of as time goes on. But let me show you how carbon cycles in our in our ecosystems as well. Now carbon, as you see in the notes here, carbon we represent with a large C. So whenever you see this big C like down here, CO2, that's carbon dioxide, we've got carbon in there, right? Um, yeah, I think that's all I'll point out right at this point. Okay, now I want you to look at this diagram, and I'm going to show you another one too that's probably actually a little bit better. And look what's happening here. So let's start with the factory right over here. So when the factory spits out all its exhaust and stuff coming out, a lot of what's in there is carbon dioxide. And there's our carbon. Right? When vehicles are running and they spit out their exhaust, right? Among other things, there's a lot of carbon dioxide in there too. There's some more carbon. When we breathe, when we as people, when we breathe out, respire, we are breathing out, again, carbon dioxide. And there's our carbon. That's an ugly C. Carbon dioxide. When animals, and a lot of, probably most living things, when they respire and breathe out, they are breathing out carbon dioxide. And there's our carbon. Okay. Now, who uses carbon dioxide? Plants do. Remember, photosynthesis, one of the main things they need is carbon dioxide. They use carbon dioxide. Okay, what are the three things that they need to make their own food? Carbon dioxide, water, and sunlight. That's right. And that's plants grow and they do all this good stuff. Okay. Now, where this kind of cycles a bit is now the plants give us, they spit out in this process, they spit out O2 or oxygen. And who uses oxygen? Animals do, we do, and I guess in certain processes, maybe at the factory, I'm not really sure how this one works, but I guess some oxygen is being used there. Okay. So things are completely being cycled. Now there's one thing on here, there's one thing that's not on this diagram that I need to show you on a different one, and it is this one right here. It's actually a better diagram. I think I'm going to use it next time or next year. See, when living things, whether it's a tree or a sheep or us or anything that's been alive, when it dies, right in here. So when it dies, right, when it dies or produces waste, all that stuff goes into the soil and it breaks down. And what we and these sheep and trees and all living things are mostly made out of is carbon. We are mostly made of carbon. So the carbon goes back in the soil. And then that's how it, again, contributes to this whole process of carbon being recycled. So if you're to go back to your notes, this is the last thing I'll end with. If you look in your notes, it says, oh, it doesn't. Actually, that's kind of stinky. So some sources of carbon. Okay, sources of carbon. Here, let's just go over this. Sources of carbon are exhaust from factories, exhaust from vehicles. When we breathe out and animals breathe out, carbon is released into the atmosphere. And also when living things die, when all living things die, carbon is put back into the soil. Okay. So those are our sources of carbon. It pretty much all goes back to plants. Then they use that carbon, again, to make their own food. And remember, what's at the start of every food chain? A producer. So that's how that carbon gets back into our ecosystems.